Recording live in the Lucky Number 7 Lounge. This is Dine, Drink, Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and you have stumbled across episode number 63, more Resorts World drama. We're also going to bring you other Las Vegas news updates we found interesting, and as always, we're going to highlight our drink of the day. But before we can bring you any of that amazing, fantastic, wonderful, scintillating, ear-scratching Las Vegas content, I've got to introduce the founder of Dine, Drink, Travel, and Dine, Drink, Vegas first. Yes, folks, I mean the high roller, formerly of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, the man who's always waiting on that limo to take him away to his next luxurious Las Vegas destination. I am speaking of Bill. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, John. How are you?
My brother, it is a week. I'm going to tell you right now, it is a week. It's going to be okay. My wife and I have a Vegas trip planned for December. I actually upgraded the room today and picked up a food and beverage credit. Things are going to be okay. But this, my brother, reminds me why I go to Vegas, because I'm having a week where a little Las Vegas escapism really sounds good. And at least I could talk to my friend.
And good. And I want to say that I am proud of you for upgrading your room, because that upgrade brings you closer to the luxury lounge, and the luxury lounge is where we all need to be.
I will say it's not a big upgrade. So we're staying in New York, New York. That's my wife's favorite property. We had a Soho King. Now we have a Soho Premier King. Slightly bigger room, guaranteed update, because we know New York's been rolling through updating rooms. Does come with a fridge. Fridges are important in Vegas. But other than that, it's not exactly the penthouse suite at the Bellagio, that's for sure. But it's going to do well for us. So, Bill, I pontificated enough. I think it's time you and I had a cocktail.
I mean, I've never tried one before. Are they any good?
I'm quite a fan of it. And if yours is not good tonight, it's your own fault, because listeners, here's what we're doing. We've done a Manhattan before on this podcast. I'm sure we'll do Manhattans again. But this week we are leaving Manhattan behind, and we are making a Manhattan style drink. However, the rule is we can't use an American whiskey. No bourbon, no rye, not even American malt. Had to go for Irish, Scotch, Canadian, or Japanese. So just to remind you, the formula for a Manhattan drink is 2 ounces of whiskey, typically rye, but it can be American bourbon. 1 ounce of sweet Italian vermouth, so a red vermouth. A dash of orange bitters or whatever bitters you feel like, and a garnish with either an orange peel or a cherry or whatever. So we both made our own spins on this. Bill, why don't you walk us through what you did?
So I have decided to, as often as I can, as long as I can honor the spirit of the drink, start making them with what I have around the house. And I've got several excellent Irish whiskeys, but because I'm mixing it, with other stuff, I didn't want to use one of those high-end Irish whiskeys. So I used Jameson, which is a lovely whiskey, which, yes, Irish people absolutely drink. It's not like it's the Fosters of Ireland or anything. But it's also, it's not an expensive spirit. I made it exactly to recipe. For my sweet Italian vermouth, I actually went French because I had it, and I used the Lillet Rouge, the Lillet Red, because I use the Lillet Blanc for my martinis. Lillet's what I keep as instead of vermouth. I used an amount of orange bitters, Sean, that I think you would be proud of, as well as a slice of orange peel, and and 1 big ice cube. It's delicious. I actually prefer this to a traditional Manhattan made with rye. I like it as a sweeter drink with less of the spicy kick. How about you, John? What did you do?
So let me just finish up on yours. So you said an ice cube. Are you drinking yours on the rocks?
Yes.
Okay. That is not a criticism. Normally, this cocktail is stirred in your stirring glass with ice and then strained and served up in a coupe or a martini glass. But that's everybody gets to do their own thing. I know people who will shake a Manhattan. bar bartending purists would say not to do that, but on the rocks is definitely an option. And I'm going to admit that sometimes I do that. Although tonight I did follow the stir it and serve it up tradition. So I used 2 ounces of Glenmorangie Scotch, just the orange label base 10-year-old Glenmorangie, nothing fancy. And I used the Dolan Rouge. I did not have any Lillet or Lillet around the house. I wanted something a little bit nicer than Gallo,
Really?
not or Martini and Rossi. Which, by the way, Martini and Rossi is perfectly fine as a vermouth, but the Dolan's nice. I went with a dash of orange bitters and a dash of Angostura. I did not put as much bitters as I normally do. I stayed in a more classic vibe. I did opt for a cherry instead of an orange peel as my garnish. I have it in a coupe glass, which Bill can see, but listeners, you can't. And I got to say, Bill, the I would imagine our drinks are fairly similar. Glenmorangie has a little more flavor character than Jameson, but Glenmorangie is not like a really smoky, peaty scotch. And I would imagine our drinks are fairly close.
I can absolutely see that. So the run sheet calls for the orange bitters. Talk to me about the Angostura bitters. Is that something which would normally be put in a Manhattan?
You see orange more often than not, but I've seen if you're using like a really strong rye, sometimes using a chocolate bitters, like you can play around with bitters. So orange would be a traditional. I do feel like because I was going to miss the spiciness of rye, I wanted a little bit of Angostura, not a lot, because I still wanted to read Scotch. But I one of the things I love about a Manhattan is how spicy the rye seems. And this does not taste remotely like rye spice, but I am glad I did go with a little bit of Angostura spice just to put into that category. By the way, Bill, did you know these drink variations actually have names?
I did not know that, John. What are those names?
So your version, if you use an Irish whiskey, that is a Tipperary. And I have no idea what Tipperary is to the people of Ireland. Do you know out of curiosity?
It's a town.
It's a town. Okay. So it's called a Tipperary instead of a Manhattan if you do it with Irish. With Scotch, it's called a Rob Roy, which I think is a little more exciting. I have no idea if there's a specific name if you use a Canadian whiskey or a Japanese whiskey. I did see somebody online said they made a Juarez and they used Mexican corn whiskey and chocolate mole bitters. And I was kind of
No,
intrigued with that.
no, sir.
I would also think you could do this with mezcal, a really smoky mezcal, and get a nice drink as well.
Or you could simply pour a nice glass of tequila and call it an evening.
That's kind of not the spirit of what we do around here, Bill. Anyway, are we ready to jump into our main story?
Go ahead, please, sir.
So this podcast has never shied away about taking pot shots at Resorts World, which is funny because only one of us has been in the building, and that's not me. So I feel like I'm picking on a property I actually have no firsthand knowledge of. But this time it has nothing to do with staff firings or restaurant issues or anything like that. Last Saturday night, Vegas Sports Information Network producer and on-air talent Kelly Bydlin was banned from the high limit room at Resorts World for quote unquote advantage play at a blackjack table. Now, listeners, for context, if you don't listen to VSIN, which by the way, if you have Sirius XM satellite, they broadcast on there. But this is the sports betting channel that records their content inside the recording studio at the Circus Sports Book. So when you look up, you can see where they do their shows. So this is not, Bob from Boise, right? So here's the kicker. Biden was down $2,000 at the time that they threw him out. He is adamant about two things. Number one, they said they threw him out for advantage play, even though he was down. So he insists he was not thrown out for being drunk or being rude or anything like that. They said advantage play. But number two, he said he was just using basic strategy. He wasn't counting cards or doing anything that would normally be considered cheating. And keep in mind that when you play with basic strategy, you do reduce the house edge, but the house retains an edge. If you play perfect strategy at blackjack, the house still has an edge, right? This prompted a series of tweets in which he showed that the space had hardly any players at the time, maybe 15% occupancy, begging the question, why would a mostly empty gambling venue kick out a player who was losing by a significant amount of money? Other commenters on X or Twitter shared in the comments to these posts they had also been thrown out of Resorts World for not for card counting, but for using basic strategy. The casino has not posted any responses. I did check just before we started recording. It's Tuesday night. This happened on Saturday night. So we're only getting one side of the story. But given this is somebody who makes a living in Vegas, right? This is a sports gambling known quantity in Las Vegas. Rather than just some disgruntled tourist, it does sort of give some credibility here. So, Bill and I obviously can't speak authoritatively on the incident. We've only heard one side of the story. But I want to take this as an opportunity. Bill, I would like you to address two things in any order you wish. One, I'd like you to talk about general blackjack etiquette because I am not a blackjack table player as a rule. But also, have you played blackjack at Resorts World and how were you treated as a blackjack player?
So, in terms of general blackjack etiquette, let's talk about what it means to be an advantage player. What it means to count cards is you're counting how many tens are left in the deck. Because if there's more tens left in the deck, the house has a larger, if you're playing appropriately, the house has a larger chance to bust. If the house has a larger chance to bust, then you would bet more on each hand. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to win the hand, but instead of the house having an advantage of somewhere between 0.5% and 2%, depending on what the table rules are, it gives you an advantage of 0.5% to maybe 8% or so, depending on what the table rules are. So that's what advantage play means. If you change your bets wildly, they will call over casino, like one of the pit bosses to watch you. And I've had pit bosses come over to watch me when I've changed my bets on different hands. But there's also people who people do that wildly all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
If
you just have a feeling, right? I feel lucky. Let me double my bet.
Yeah, that sort of thing happens all the time. So if the house was doing what is alleged, then what they would have noticed is a player varying his bets, and in particular betting more later in the shoot. And perhaps the house knew that they had more tens left. But remember what I said, this doesn't mean you're winning the hand. It means you have a slightly better chance to win the hand. So one thing, perhaps he was advantage betting. Perhaps the house was simply wrong. So that would be what the etiquette is. But you are within table limits. You are free to vary your bet on every single hand. What will draw the house's attention is betting more the later you get in the shoot.
Okay, but what about his argument that he's using basic strategy? I mean, at lower stakes tables in a lot of properties, they'll even let you have the dum-dum cards, which I need when I play blackjack, that tell you whether or not you should stay or hit or, and I was under the impression that basic strategy was fully acceptable at a Las Vegas blackjack table. Have you ever experienced anything to the contrary?
No, basic strategy is absolutely acceptable to the point that a number of beginning players will ask the dealer what they should do on a hand. And sometimes the dealer will answer, sometimes they won't. The dealer's answers on what they should do are usually pretty good, but not great. But no, basic strategy is absolutely fine. To the point that I can only think of two explanations for what happened here. Either he's not telling the whole story, right? Like he was doing something else, or he had won on an earlier hand and the facial recognition just caught up, or something like that. Or two, Resorts World is bad at their business, and that's why their business seems to be struggling so badly. So, John, are you inclined to believe this story?
I'm leaning that way because, Bill, I understand there's every chance in the world that Mr. Biden is exaggerating just to get some Twitter sympathy. But here's the thing. He works in that town, right? He lives in that town. This is not some tourist who shows up 3-4 times a year that's complaining. He's got a reputation on the line. So number one, I think the fact that he is who he is grants him a degree of credibility. Number two, Resorts World seems to be really bad at things. And we've talked about this on multiple episodes. They can't seem to figure out how to hotel. It's Hilton. They've been hoteling forever, right? They can't seem to figure out their restaurant thing. They can't seem to figure out how to attract more gamblers. And he did post a video. That room was dead. They're not attracting high-end gamblers. The high limit room was dead that night. They're not attracting clientele. I think the totality of the circumstantial evidence, I lean towards believing Mr. Biden. I really do. And I hope I don't mispronounce his name. We will tag him when we drop the episode in case he has comments to how we size this up. But Bill, I think in this circumstance, if this was Joe Blow tourist and this was a more reputable, successful operator, I would probably assume player shenanigans. But because of who it is and because of what resort it is, I think I believe him. I could be wrong, but I think I believe him. What do you think, Bill?
I haven't read the Twitter feed. I trust your judgment, but if this dude is telling, so there's a difference between what you say being completely true and what you say being truly complete. If what he has said is truly complete, then that makes this just weird. Because as you point out, a lot of places will let you have the card down on the table with you, to the point that other gamblers sometimes appreciate that you do it, because people who are bad at math and don't understand game theory think that you placing a wrong bet impacts the card they got because they don't understand how game theory works. And while that might be true on it, whatever. Having playing basic strategy is absolutely allowed and sometimes encouraged out loud by the other players. Like a couple of times you've played with me, John, and you're like, what should I do here? And I've said yada yada, like whatever the situation was.
Because I'm usually too drunk to be at a blackjack table. That's generally how that goes. Yeah.
No, sometimes our buddy Zero sits down with me, and ladies and gentlemen, our buddy Zero is a mathematician who is a world-class statistician, and he gets to Vegas, and all of a sudden this world-class statistician gets a feeling about what's there. So sometimes I will just openly tell our buddy Zero, no, dude, that's the wrong play. And he'll be like, no, it's a 10, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
That's okay. Those are conversations that are had out loud all the time.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we beat that horse to death, other than to say, if this story is true, I'm inclined to believe it is. It sounds like Bill's on the fence and a little skeptical. But if this story is true, it's definitely not a good look for Resorts World. All right, Bill, on that note, why don't you lead us into some news?
All right. Well, Scott at Vital Vegas, who has one of our favorite accounts about Las Vegas, but Scott at Vital Vegas reported that struggling pizza and donut outlets at Red Rock will be replaced with Las Vegas locals' favorite Good Pie and LA's beloved Randy's Donuts, although the blog post indicates Scott isn't a fan of Good Pie. So, John, Red Rock keeps trying super hard. Why is it that you and I have never been to Red Rock?
because it's a long, long way from the strip. Although I will say, Bill, sometimes when we book our trips, the whole crew gets to show up. Sometimes they don't. The next time there's a trip where it looks like it's just going to be you and me in Las Vegas, I would propose that we actually book rooms at Red Rock for one night. Maybe we do some property hopping. I definitely want to check this out. And I will say too, Good Pie, if you don't catch the riff on the name, the founder of Good Pie used to work for Evil Pie, which I just love that. And most locals have glowing things to say about Good Pie, even though Scott doesn't. The other thing is, and I'm a nerd, I've never been to Los Angeles, but the picture of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man sitting in a Randy's donut rooftop giant donut sign is iconic to me. And I got to say, I would go get a slice of pizza and a donut at Red Rock.
All right.
Diabetes or not, I would do that.
Cool. Well, what's next, John?
So Scott also covered the news of the Pepper Club's impending closure in January. The Anchor restaurant in the English Hotel located in the Arts District. Both the hotel and the restaurant have had trouble gaining traction due to public dislike of disgraced restaurateur Todd English, who gives the hotel its name and who was the founding chef and set the menu at the Pepper Club. Even though he hasn't been involved in the day-to-day operations for blah 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 in quite a while. I promise I have not had much to drink. Just having
Blah,
a
blah,
hard time
blah.
talking. So, Bill, have you heard much about the English Hotel or the Pepper Club, and do you have any interest in staying in a hotel in the Arts District?
I do not. I was willing to walk to the Arts District with you to eat at Esther's Kitchen, but there's just not that much there that I'm interested in. I would prefer to stay in either downtown on Fremont Street or down on the Strip, but one of the two big hotel zones, because one of the things I enjoy is just stumbling out of my hotel and there being a whole lot of other hotels and entertainment just there. So yeah, I mean, good for them, but that's not. This is still not a place that I am. Yeah, I don't care. I'm unlikely to go.
Yeah. Plus, the English Hotel has that setup where there's a window in the shower so that if you're staying with your significant other, they can watch you take a shower. And I get in a world where the two people that are staying in that hotel are good looking, fit 20 somethings, that's great. Um, yeah, I don't think my wife wants to watch me soap up anything at this stage in my life. So yeah, that hotel has no particular appeal to me, and I apologize, listeners, for the mental images you may have just conceived. Bill, I'm going to throw this to you now, so I need to quit talking.
No, I think you should go on infinitely, John,
No,
because everything you say is helping us. Okay. Well, as you will not then, Las Vegas locally shared photos of the remodeled Lift Bar finally reopened on the Aria casino floor, and the place looks fantastic. I will say, so the Aria is a beautiful property. I have trouble, like I've been there a half a dozen times now. I have trouble finding my way around their casino floor. John, where on the Aria casino floor is Lift Bar?
not very far. If it's the bar I'm thinking of, which there's a chance that it's not, I believe it's the bar that is closest to the pastry and coffee joint, pretty close to where you go back to the room towers.
Okay, fair. Still, I appreciate the efforts. I got burned so badly by I can't remember what obscene price I paid for a double of Maker's Mark on the Aria on one of the Aria casino service bars. I don't like the bars at the Aria, I guess, based on that. Also, pro tip, y'all, sometimes a double in a Las Vegas hotel is two shots, but sometimes the second shot is smaller than the first. So a standard shot is usually an ounce and a half. Sometimes they'll try to skimp out with 1.25 ounces. Their total double there that they charged me twice the price for was 2 ounces. Maybe. Don't order a double, order two singles. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Well, just about everybody online in Vegas has, whether you're a blogger, a podcaster, or a YouTuber or whatever, they've all weighed in on their opinions on Fremont Street Experience's New Year's Eve musical lineup, and their responses have been bad. So, Bill, there were a lot of performers that I didn't know their name. Of course, at my age, that's not shocking. But the headliners are Robin Thicke. He, the son of the ABC's sitcom. God, what was that show with Kirk Cameron? Anyway, Robin Thicke. Yeah. Anyway, and CeeLo Green. Meh. Bill, do you have any interest in being down there to hear Blurred Lines and Crazy?
No, mostly because you can't move up and down Fremont Street when they've got a big concert like that. Also, I'm trying to think of a less safe place in the world. That I mean, in terms of an attack from an external threat, than Fremont Street on New Year's Eve when it's packed. I don't care if a woman even prettier than you are, John, is singing naked on stage. I'm not going. Like, I don't want to be in that big a crowd. I am not saying that there are a whole lot of women prettier than you are, John. I'm just saying that theoretically, if it did happen, I still wouldn't go. I don't want to be there right then.
I'm going to disagree with that. Look, risk
You're going
is
to
a part of
disagree
life.
that some people are better looking than you, John?
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to. I've seen me, all right. But I'm also going to disagree with, like, I am not afraid of going out on New Year's Eve to a crowd. Although I will say, as I get older, if I'm going to be in a crowd like that, I got to really want to hear the bands. Frankly, I'm pretty sure most of the bands that normally play on Fremont Street are better than Robin Thicke. I do like CeeLo Green, though. So I don't know.
Fair. All right. Well, what else do we have, John? Oh, wait. No, it's your turn. I'm bad at counting. I've been drinking. This is all your fault.
Actually, I think it was, well, at any rate, Slate published an article today on the downtown Las Vegas on, well, that's weirdly phrased, saying it was very much real.
Downturn, not downtown, on the downturn.
Oh my goodness. All right. Dyslexia, Slate published an article today on the downturn in Las Vegas, saying that it is very much real and attributing much of it to high prices. However, they also said that given labor and other costs, casinos are still running $5 blackjack at 3 to 2 are doing that. Casinos who run $5 blackjack at 3 to 2 are doing so at a loss, which, okay, I'll buy that. Bill, we've covered this extensively on here. Two things can be true at one time. Everything's more expensive, and that includes running a casino. But there's such a thing as overcharging. Do you think that there's room for the casinos to dial back prices at least a little to give consumers a break, but still turn a profit?
Absolutely. So one of the things that article talked about was the 000 roulette wheels.
Oh God, no,
and
don't,
other
no.
things like that. And so $5 blackjack paying 3 to 2 with other normal rules has a house edge of about 0.66%. So that means on any standard $5 bet, you're not winning. You're winning. The house is winning what, 3.5 cents. So I get how that's problematic. Here's the deal: people playing $5 blackjack are very rarely going to be playing perfect strategy. And a lot of times there's more than one person at that table, and some of them are betting more than $5 a hand. So my guess is this is probably true. But yeah, I don't know, man. I would want to see the specific math before I believe this. I guess
Okay.
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I think it depends on your labor costs, because that's the thing you got to factor in there. I get it. We want casino employees to be paid a fair wage. But if you're only making somewhere between 33 cents and, let's say, $1 a hand on average, let's say that players are 3 times out of odds because they're just bad decisions, right? I think that math adds up pretty quick at a $5 limit. I could see raising to $10 a hand for a live dealer. And if you want to play for $5 a hand or $3 a hand, you go play a machine. I don't have a problem with that so much. It's not raising 3-2 blackjack from 5 to 10 or 15 that bothers me. It's the 000 roulette. Honestly, it's the 00 roulette. You shouldn't play either. It's single zero or bust. It's things like that. It's video poker pay tables that are so out of whack that the house has like a 2 or 3 or 4% advantage. I mean, those video poker machines are older than me. Those things are old and beat up and nasty. You got your money's worth out of them. You can wire those where the house only has a 0.5% edge and still be clearing a profit. Because, like you said, in any game, most people don't play perfectly, and the house advantage only grows. So, yeah, I'm willing to tolerate limits going up a little bit and things like that, but I do think the prices are out of whack.
All righty then. Is it your turn? Man, I've been drinking too much, John.
I've done 2 in a row.
Yeah, all right, so then it is probably my turn. So according to Fox News, Vegas Insider is going to pay one lucky winner $2,000 to review Las Vegas Thanksgiving buffets. And I have 2 thoughts, John. One of those is that's a lot of Thanksgiving food. But 2, you're not a huge fan of the buffet in Vegas. But you have eaten some holiday meals in Vegas. Would you do it if somebody said $2,000, but you got to go to all the buffets and give us content?
Yes, and here's the thing about my relationship with buffets, Bill. I used to weigh darn near 400 pounds. I got the beatus. It's not that I don't enjoy buffets. My thing with buffets is this. If I'm going to fork out the money and literally put my pancreas on the line, the food better be worth it. And I just think that most buffets, the bang for the buck isn't there for me. And it's probably not a habit I should get into. But for a $2,000 payday, I'm your boy. I'll double up on the metformin and hit all the buffets you want. I will tell you who has the best cranberry sauce, who's got the best pumpkin pie. I'm down for that. I can do that.
All right. Fair enough then. So all right. I know I just did that one, which makes it your turn.
Yes, it does. Las Vegas authorities have approved an increase in the rate you will pay to park your private plane in Las Vegas. So if you're even more luxury lounge than Bill, who does not have his own private plane, poor guy, you will be down a few extra bucks. This is tied to the start of Formula One this weekend, which we know is a magnet for really rich people with nothing better to do than watch cars go. Psing.
Yeah. So, John, what would it take to get you to go to Las Vegas to watch a Formula One event?
If somebody else is paying, I'll go.
All right. How much would you pay for a weekend in Las? Does the presence of Formula One make you want to pay more or pay less to be there that particular weekend?
I would not avoid Las Vegas during Formula One. I would avoid the Strip during Formula One. You and I both love Fremont Street. There's also a lot of locals casinos out in the valley that we haven't tried yet. I would go to Red Rock. I would go to South Point. I would go to Sam's Town. I don't really want to be on the street for Formula One. I'm not a car racing fan, but I would absolutely be in town for Formula One. What about you, Bill?
So I hate everything about it. I hate how the views are blocked off. I hate how the traffic is jacked up. I hate the fact that they are so obscene about their own regulations that they put like wooden blocks on the bridges over the strip so that you don't accidentally catch a view of the cars. Yeah. I hate the way, like it's, you know what? I'll be happy in Las Vegas some other weekend. This won't be that.
Yeah, no, I got you. I just will say that if the best time for you to be in Las Vegas happens to be in that Formula One window, don't avoid Vegas, avoid the strip. All right, Bill, do we have a college football update?
So, folks, we are recording this on Tuesday, November the 18th. And in theory, the rankings were released 12 minutes ago, but it was going to be at a break in college basketball. I am checking right now, and it does not look like they are released. So, for those of you who are serious college sports bettors, there are three things to know. The first is that Oklahoma beat Alabama this weekend. That is absolutely going to cause a shakeup in the playoff rankings. Alabama is still in the running for the SEC championship game. Oklahoma is not, because both of their losses are conference losses. It will be interesting to see what the committee does with that. Second, Mississippi State is very much in the running for the SEC championship game, as well as for the college football playoff. But Coach Lane Kiffin has been linked to at least two other coaching vacancies. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the committee downgrade Mississippi based on the absence of their coach. And finally, John likes to make fun of me because I talk about my really severe case of battered Aggie syndrome, because Texas A&M is gonna break my heart, and this time they decided to break it through electric shock. So Texas A&M remains undefeated on the season, but at halftime was down 30-3 to South Carolina, which is slightly worse at football than John is at whatever old age he is. Texas A&M, but going into that game, SEC teams were, I think it was 0-286 when down by 27 or more points. A&M won that game, so A&M will stay highly ranked. I want my Aggies to win. I think they've got a chance to win based on that massive comeback. However, if you're giving up 30 points in the first half to South Carolina, you've got some fundamental problems. So, John, have you been watching college football at all this season, or not, because your Horned Frogs are somehow even worse than normal?
I've been watching here and there, and I will say this about your Aggies. I think that teams that are on a hot streak, especially young teams, college teams, NFL teams with a lot of early career players, there's such a thing that Bill Parcells talked about as a trap game. You walk into the game thinking, we got this, we're undefeated, this team's nobody. I think the fact that A&M walked into a trap game and still got the W bodes well. I actually think this is a good sign and not a bad sign, because, Bill, I guarantee you, those young men who wear the maroon of your institution will not walk into any other games this season thinking, man, we got this. They are going to be on point, because they nearly ruined their season by not taking an opponent seriously. Bill, I think this was a blessing in disguise for your team. And again, I'm going to say it again. Enjoy the ride.
As long as we defeat the publicly funded institution in Austin, which deserves no name, I'll be okay.
And I think if y'all had rolled in and blew this team out and not gone through some adversity, that UT game would be even scarier. I think it is better to face some adversity against than against your rivals. All right. Speaking of football, our Vegas WTF of the week, viewers of Monday Night Football may have noticed that when the game began at Allegiant Stadium and the Cowboys had their first possession, their star wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, were standing on the sideline instead of being out there on the field, leaving the backups out there trying to catch passes from Dak Prescott. All that the TV crew had to say at the time was that it was a coach's decision, leading both Troy Aikman, who is never shy to throw shade on my beloved Cowboys, and Troy could do that because we believe in 8-ball, and he remembers when our franchise was actually, good, and Joe Buck to speculate that there was some kind of coach's discipline, but Coach Brian Schottenheimer chose not to share. Well, by Tuesday morning, leaks came out of the Cowboys organization, and it turns out that Mr. Lamb and Mr. Pickens had been caught violating the team curfew so that they could go out and see what it is exactly that Las Vegas happens to offer to young, athletic, wealthy men. Here's the thing. Even though they missed the first series, and even though clearly they'd been sleep deprived and may or may not have been hungover, they both went on to record really good stat lines in a victory over the Raiders, and they looked phenomenal once they were allowed to go in the game and play, just proving that Las Vegas shenanigans are, in fact, good for you, folks. If you don't believe me, go watch that game. On that note, Bill, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find more Dine Drink Vegas and Dine Drink Travel content?
Folks, most importantly, you can find our content by looking at John through the windows of the English Hotel in the Arts District. However, if that's not your thing, you can find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas, where we bring you short and focused videos which give you the information that you need to plan your next trip. You can also find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Travel, where we do a wider array of travel topics, including the executive lounges at the Las Vegas airport. You can find me on most social media platforms at Dine Drink Travel, except for Blue Sky, where I am Dine Drink Bill. John, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Dine Drink John, where I am happy to talk to you about Las Vegas, adult beverages, fine coffee, barbecuing, and why the Dallas Cowboys are probably going to lead me to an early grave. We are so glad you took the time to listen to our podcast. If you have a friend that is planning a trip to Las Vegas and could benefit from our sage wisdom, or a mortal enemy that hates listening to old, fat, white Southern guys talk and talk and talk, either way, share our podcast with them. You'll be helping us grow our brand so that we can continue to bring you this outstanding travel content. Thank you once again, and until the next episode, happy travels.